Hey there, and welcome to Bipolar Talks, the space where we get real about mental health, from all its complicated corners to the parts we rarely hear about. If this is your first time listening, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and share this episode with someone you care about. And to our regular listeners, you already know how grateful we are to have you back. So today's topic? It might sound a bit surprising at first. Bipolar I doesn't require depression? You heard that right. Sounds like a mistake, doesn't it? But stay with me, we're about to unpack something that can really shift the way you see bipolar disorder. Let's dive in. When people talk about bipolar disorder, it's often boiled down to this: dramatic mood swings between feeling sky high and hitting rock bottom. It's the standard explanation: emotional highs known as mania or hypomania, and lows referred to as depression. Seems like a solid summary, right? But here's the twist. Not every type of bipolar disorder follows that formula. And in the case of bipolar I, you can be diagnosed without ever experiencing depression. Yes, that's real. Just one manic episode is enough for a bipolar I diagnosis, even if you've never felt depressed. Kind of flips everything on its head, doesn't it? You might be wondering, why haven't we heard more about this? Let's talk about it. The DSM-5, short for the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders 5th edition, lays out the official definition for bipolar I disorder. According to it, a person needs to have at least one manic episode that persists for a minimum of 7 days, or a manic episode that becomes so intense it needs hospitalization. That manic episode should involve a marked change in how the person functions, possibly including psychosis or delusions. Now here's the key detail. A depressive episode is not a required part of this diagnosis. You can have depression, yes, but you don't need it for the diagnosis to be considered bipolar I. It's that one manic episode that holds all the diagnostic weight. So yes, just one experience of mania can be the defining factor for bipolar I. Ever heard that before? Most people haven't. So why does this misunderstanding persist? Part of it comes from confusion between bipolar I and bipolar II. In bipolar II, depression is a must. It's part of the diagnostic criteria. You have to experience at least one major depressive episode, and at least one hypomanic episode, which is a milder version of mania. So, because depression is necessary in bipolar II and very common in bipolar I, people start to assume it must be a part of every bipolar diagnosis. Add to that the way pop culture portrays bipolar disorder, fluctuations between intense happiness and deep sadness, and it's no wonder the myth sticks. You've probably heard people describe someone as so bipolar just because their mood changes fast. But that's not only inaccurate, it's also harmful. In truth, mania by itself is enough to meet the threshold for bipolar I. And that's not a small thing, it changes how we understand this condition completely. Let's look closer at what a manic episode actually involves, because this is often where people get confused. Mania isn't simply being cheerful or full of energy. It's not the same as having a super productive day. It's intense. It's disruptive. And for many people it can be terrifying. Common symptoms of mania include an exaggerated sense of confidence or even grandiosity, needing way less sleep, sometimes sleeping just a couple of hours a night, talking a mile a minute, often in a way that feels uncontrollable, thoughts that race faster than you can keep up with, a constant shift in attention, everything feels urgent, engaging in risky behaviors, overspending, impulsive decisions, or dangerous actions. In more extreme cases, hallucinations or delusional thinking. Mania can feel invincible, like your ideas are world-changing. People often describe feeling connected to something greater, or convinced they're on a special mission. But this state can quickly unravel. Jobs lost, trust broken, health jeopardized. For many people diagnosed with bipolar I, this is the only mood episode they've ever had. No depression, no lows, just recurring manic episodes. And that's still bipolar I, full stop. Here's the thing, when someone has only experienced mania, their experience might be brushed off. Family members might think they're just going through a quirky phase. Doctors might mistake it for ADHD, anxiety, or even a reaction to stress or trauma. Some people end up being labeled as difficult, overdramatic, or too intense. That kind of invalidation can stick with you. Years, even decades, can pass before someone gets the right diagnosis. And in that time, they may suffer in silence or internalize blame for behaviors they didn't fully understand. Getting the wrong label or no label at all can feel like gaslighting, even if no one intends to cause harm. That's why this conversation is so important. When we recognize that depression isn't always part of bipolar I, we open the door for earlier, more accurate care. Let's ground this in reality. Here are some real things people have shared with us. I had a manic episode in my 20s. Everyone thought I was just going through a creative burst. I ended up in the hospital, but because I never got depressed, they didn't call it bipolar. Years went by before I finally got diagnosed. And another story. I've never been sad enough to be considered depressed. But I've had multiple manic episodes. One nearly cost me my life. No one believed me when I said something felt off. They kept waiting for me to crash. But I never did. These stories matter. They bring the textbook to life. Ever had an experience that didn't fit the mold? We'd love to hear it. Comment below or message us. We want your voice in this space. Here's what we know. Misunderstanding leads to misdiagnosis. And misdiagnosis leads to suffering. That's why education matters. Not just for mental health professionals, but for all of us. When we raise awareness that mania by itself can indicate bipolar I, we give people the language to talk about what they're going through. We help families ask better questions. We help friends support each other in deeper ways. And we help those who are struggling know they're not imagining things. Being informed can literally be life-saving. Let's be the reason someone finds clarity, maybe even for the first time. If you or someone close to you has experienced mania, even just once, don't wait for a depressive episode to seek help. Talk to a mental health professional who understands mood disorders deeply. Get evaluated. Ask questions. You deserve to be seen for the full picture of your experience, not just what fits someone else's checklist. You don't have to suffer longer to be taken seriously, and you definitely don't need to prove your struggle through a depressive episode. Your story is valid exactly as it is. If this episode helped bring clarity, or even just gave you something to think about, hit that like button, subscribe to Bipolar Talks, and share it with someone who might need this perspective. Conversations like this make change possible. And every time we challenge a myth, we make room for someone else to be understood. Thanks for joining us today. This is Bipolar Talks, and I'm your name. Until next time, stay informed, stay kind, and stay connected to your truth. Disclaimer: this video is intended for informational purposes only and should not be used as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek guidance from a qualified mental health professional for any concerns regarding your mental well-being.